Hi, this is Neeraj Batra. I'm an analyst here at TABB Group. Today we have Tony Warren, Vice President of Product Management at SunGard Asset Management. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
I think it's safe to say, regulations have been on everyone's mind for the last few years, especially this year when the majority of the rules are getting implemented. Asset managers specifically right now are facing a lot of cost pressures as well as regulatory pressures. So Tony, why don't you tell us a bit about the key trends you're seeing in the asset managers world?
Well, certainly the cost pressure is the headline. I think there's tremendous competition now amongst the asset managers. There's a renewed focus on the fees that they're charging, hence the cost pressure from the asset manager. That then leads into cost pressures passed down to the fund administrator or their own back offices. And what we see is that there's a perpetual strive to be as efficient as possible in the back office. And I think the challenge is as you create efficiencies in those areas, you're then met with this perpetual headwind of change. And that change is coming really from regulations on a global basis and then changes to industry practice as well.
How does technology play into that? How are you using this opportunity to innovate through technology?
We have a program which we refer to as Regulatory Insights. What Regulatory Insights does is it sees SunGard taking out to the business the challenges that we see. So at our summit recently, we hosted a global session, and then we're following that up with regional sessions this autumn.
How are you using this opportunity to kind of drive it home that automation is kind of the way to go?
We proactively upgrade our product, and as we're rolling out new features, we ensure that our customers are seeing where they can incorporate those features to really try and eliminate the need for side systems and spreadsheet solutions.
With all the different regulations right now in the U.S. and Europe and Asia, in terms of technology, does that present any complexities?
As we get new regulations coming in, they can obviously cause then change or more overhead to that operation.
As far as Dodd-Frank is concerned, is there any specific part of Dodd-Frank that's more focused right now as opposed to other areas within Dodd-Frank? Because I know it's a huge
It is a huge issue. We're beginning with interest rate swaps and credit default swaps, and how that can become those instruments can become centrally cleared rather than traditionally traded OTC. And so the system will then provide automation that it will create the necessary variation margins and truing up the interest on a daily basis. So the result of that is that the fund is always is then never exposed with unmargined cash. It's always flowed through the central clearer, and the books are then balanced.
I know SunGard, your solution, the Invest One solution, is a product designed to kind of incorporate a lot of all the back office operations into kind of one solution. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we've recently upgraded our application to a new feature that we call MBOR. So that stands for Multiple Book of Record. The purpose of MBOR is that you can bring in the data to perform the traditional NAV and fund accounting function, but then on top of that, we can then make that data multifaceted. So it means that as well as your NAV as a result in your financial statements, we can then also use that same data set and replay the data. So the types of output you could get could be an IFRS version of the accounts, or you could have a restatement into a different base accounting currency. We could have a tax book where we can look at wash sale effects, etc. And then, of course, the CGT calculator. And then hand in hand with that, we also look at the timing difference. So one of the popular trends in the market is looking at middle office flowback via an IBOR or an investment book of record. And we've already built that into our application as well. So we can produce back to the manager on a global basis an end of day and a start of day position straight from the fund accounting source. So it eliminates any overhead for the fund for asset servicer.
Has there been a big difference in the back office and middle office operations for people in the U.S. and say Europe? Is there, or is it still pretty uniform across the board.
I think it's pretty uniform.
Yeah.
I think the definite rise is that people want to be able to have a global reach.
Sure.
So the idea is that you can service different types of products. So whether it's a hedge fund, a 40 Act fund, institutional ETF, and then have that on a cross-jurisdictional basis. So it can be served in Europe or in the United States or anywhere else in the world.
Sure. So obviously, this year is turning out to be a very critical year for regulations, not just Dodd-Frank. So where do you see in the next 6 months? Where do you see things shaking out? Any opinion on what you're envisioning for the next for the remaining year?
Yeah, I think the Dodd-Frank is obviously going to start to really take hold, and then we're going to see volume going through centrally cleared swaps.
Sure.
The result of that may be an increase of volume into these types of instruments, and then that's going to extend into other types of derivatives, so total return swaps and non-deliverable forwards, by way of example. We also see another key market being Canada adopting IFRS from the 1st of January of 2014. And while IFRS, once it's up and running, is fine, you have this transitional period where you're going to change the accounting technique. And so it's looking after the lot management, are you grandfathering items, and moving, let's say, from a realized basis of bonds to an effective yield calculation methodology.
Sure. I think we'll end it on that note. Tony, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you coming
Thank you
today.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.